Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.
It's Wednesday, January 19th. This is The Gateway. I'm Wayne Pratt. The Muny has a new president and CEO for the first time in 31 years. Kwofe Coleman says one of his priorities is to increase diversity throughout the organization.
When a person comes into this theater, do they see a reflection of themselves on the stage? Do they see a reflection of themselves in the audience, on the backstage crews, in the musicians, across the board?
St. Louis Public Radio's Jeremy Goodwin speaks with the Muny's Kwofe Coleman in just a few minutes. Missouri House members have given preliminary approval to a congressional redistricting map. As St. Louis Public Radio's Sarah Kellogg reports, a map with 7 Republican seats is now a lot less likely.
With a vote of 84 to 60, members of the House approved a bill redrawing Missouri's congressional districts. Currently, the state has 6 Republican and 2 Democratic congressional representatives. The map the House voted on would likely keep that intact. Representative Dan Shaw, who chaired the House committee responsible for congressional redistricting, said the committee had to use 2020 census data in drawing the map.
We may like the data by the census, we may not. We do not have a choice. We must use that data from the census.
However, the map did receive bipartisan opposition. Attempts from Democrats to modify the map, as well as attempts from some Republicans to redraw the map so it had 7 Republican seats, were all defeated. The House must still take a final vote before it goes to the Senate. In Jefferson City, I'm Sarah Kellogg, St. Louis Public Radio.
Missouri Governor Mike Parson will deliver his annual State of the State address today. He will outline budget goals and is expected to touch on how he wants Missouri to spend billions of dollars from the American Rescue Plan Act. Senate President Pro Tem Dave Schatz said last week that Parson could also discuss his accomplishments as governor.
I think he's going to continue to hammer the things that he's been successful at, and his workforce development, infrastructure investment, and those things. Those are going to be critical in how we continue to build on our education success as well. So I would assume that those will all be things to be talking about.
Parson's address is slated to begin at 3 this afternoon. It will be broadcast live on St. Louis Public Radio. The Missouri Farm Bureau is hoping to get more signs on the state's roads and highways to promote ag tourism. President Garrett Hawkins says the group has been working with the Missouri Department of Transportation for years to try and make room for signs to promote things like farmers markets, corn mazes, and U-pick operations.
Agritourism is one of the brightest, hottest growing areas of agriculture, and we're really proud of that. And in fact, Missouri Farm Bureau was the first state to have an agritourism-focused committee of grassroots members.
But Hawkins says that committee has not yet been able to get MoDOT to change its regulations to create opportunities for agritourism signs. He hopes to resolve the matter with the department, but might also look into legislation this session. Hawkins was a guest on Politically Speaking. That episode is at stlpr.org. 2 of the largest police departments in the state, St. Louis and St. Louis County, are currently searching for new chiefs. As St. Louis Public Radio's Rachel Lippman reports, there is concern among officers about a lack of transparency with both processes.
St. Louis County Police Chief Mary Barton retired at the end of July. Barely a month later, St. Louis Metropolitan Police Chief John Hayden announced he would step down in February, although that date has been pushed back. The county's Board of Police Commissioners has yet to announce what their search will look like. In St. Louis, it's up to the Civil Service Commission to help hire a new chief. Donnie Walters is the president of the Ethical Society of Police, which advocates for officers of color in both departments. He says the lack of transparency is bad news for officers and residents alike.
The citizens of St. Louis deserve to be aware of the process from beginning to end.
There is no timeline for when either search will be complete. I'm Rachel Lippman, St. Louis Public Radio.
There is a new leader at one of the oldest arts organizations in St. Louis. Kwofe Coleman took the reins of the Muny at the start of the year, following the retirement of Denny Reagan, who ran the Forest Park Theater since 1991. Coleman is a native of Bellefontaine Neighbors. He started working at the Muny 23 years ago as a teenage usher and has also been the theater's director of communications and managing director. St. Louis Public Radio's Jeremy Goodwin asked Coleman where he wants to take the Muny.
One of the top goals is to make sure that our audience and the people that come to this theater, that it's representative of the community that we serve. And it's a goal to make sure that we continue to strive to make sure that our audience represents all of St. Louis. What I mean is that when a person comes into this theater, do they see a reflection of themselves on the stage? Do they see a reflection of themselves in the audience, on the backstage crews, in the musicians, across the board, all the people, so many disciplines and skill sets really and passions come together to make this happen.
How diverse is the staff here?
I'm proud of the diversity of the staff. I think there are always steps to make. We have a really great mix of individuals from a ethnic standpoint, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, you name it. I think sometimes the word diversity gets so narrowly defined. A lot of it is race, a lot of it is black and white, but that's not the limit to it. So
you mentioned gender identity, class,
socioeconomic, you name it, and that's really important to me, because when we sit at a table and we make decisions about something that's going to happen in the theater or whatnot, I really appreciate when people say, well, everyone's not going to be able to afford that, or that everyone doesn't have that same experience.
How diverse is the audience at the meeting?
It depends on the show. In truth, would I say it's fully representative of the balance in St. Louis? No, not yet. Do I think that we are making the strides to get there? Absolutely. I hesitate to put a number on it because it just changes.
Well, Kwofe, this is one of the longest running and highest profile arts organizations in St. Louis. You happen to be the first African American to lead this organization. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Why is that important?
That's an immense source of pride for me. I am in this position due to hard work and being what I believe is the best qualified person for it. But I come to this job with my identity and carry my identity with a lot of pride. When I talked a little bit earlier about people coming into this theater and seeing reflections of themselves on stage or backstage, but it's also to see reflections of themselves in all levels of leadership. I take that with a high sense of pride, but also a high sense of responsibility. I've earned this position, and I need to make sure that young people, understand that they have the opportunity to earn the same type of position. I hope that the next time there's a me, it's not even really a special story that they're an African American or person of color, because the talent and skill knows no color boundaries. Only opportunity and access seem to.
The Muny is one of the best funded arts organizations in St. Louis, but because of the pandemic, you were essentially dark in 2020. I know you did some other events, but a limited season last year. How will the finances here be if you're not, in fact, able to go back to a full schedule in this summer?
No one can take multiple years of bringing in no revenue and everything stay the same. I am confident and happy in the position that we are, given the situation and given where it could be. We're in a position to be here for the long haul, for sure.
And you've talked about sort of parallel planning tracks in terms of, we're going to have a season, it could look like this, it could look like that, or it could look like the other. What's the planning process for you at this point?
At this point, we're planning on a full normal, whatever normal means, 7-show season, and you plan to move in that direction until that's not the case. Last year, as you know, we not only did we reduce the number of shows, we also moved the start date. We're planning on a full 7-show season. That's what we're going to work toward. But we also know that if certain things aren't in place by April, May, then you have to start looking at some alternatives. We're going to take every step possible to bring people back together safely and celebrate this great St. Louis tradition together. That's the goal. That's what we're working toward. And until the health experts or the world dictates otherwise, that's the direction we'll go in.
That's new Muny President and CEO Kwofe Coleman talking with St. Louis Public Radio's Jeremy Goodwin. Our David Casares edited that report. Shula Newman is the executive editor of St. Louis Public Radio, a listener-supported service of the University of Missouri-St. Louis. Music by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Wayne Pratt. This has been The Gateway.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.